Welcome to the February Sparks session. Today I am honored to have Renaud Brossard. He comes out of Canada and Zoom allows us to have him here from Canada. I met Renaud at a collaboratory, our collaboratory event last fall. He came out and talked about an interesting project he's working on called Generation Screwed. I love the name, by the way. So we thought, well, let's have him out here on the Spark session to just talk about engaging people who are out of our usual normal audiences, and more particularly younger than the people we usually reach. Now, we may call these people millennials, but I think at this point, some of them are, right?
Yeah. There's a part of our whole part of my presentation about that, and thank you, Nicole. Thank you for the invitation as well. I know when you sent the invitation, there was something about warming your hearts. I don't think you've been in Canada in February, but warm is definitely the opposite of this place.
There's a reason why I'm working in Tennessee right now.
That explains. But I'm quite happy to be here because I strongly believe there needs to be more young people involved in the freedom movement. Heck, that's what I'm working on at the moment. But there's also a more personal side to it. For those who don't know, I live in Ottawa, which is a government town in Canada. And I quite enjoy the idea of speaking with people that are not on the government's payroll. This is not an experience I get as often these days, so I'm quite happy with this. So basically, should I start my presentation?
Before you start, I do want to tell all of the people on the Zoom conference, if you have questions along the way, there's a Q&A button. It's up at the top of your screen. Hit that and enter it in there. That helps us track questions as we go. If you're on Facebook, put them in the comments. I can't promise I will always get to the questions on Facebook because Facebook is terrible and they choose which comments I see. And if I forget to expand it to all the comments, sometimes I don't see them. So, but drop them in the comments. Happy to look through those as well. I shared it to my personal page. It's on our Spark Freedom page. And with that, Renaud, what do you have to tell us?
Perfect. Well, I'll start sharing my screen. And yeah, if there's some questions I don't answer perfectly, I'll just blame that on the fact that I'm in a town full of politicians and their specialty is not answering questions. So let's get started. Well, thanks for joining me. I don't know if it's morning, afternoon, or whatever time of day it is, but I'm really glad to be able to speak to all of you about driving youth engagement in freedom causes, or as I like to say, how to make liberty more popular than the next iPhone. So just before I start on the main topic, a little bit about me, so you know why I'm qualified to teach this thing. Well, first of all, I'm still young. I'm 25, so I still am in that millennial category. So that already helps. And I studied at UQAM, the University in Montreal, where I got the BBA in international business. I've been involved with Generation Screwed for the past 5 years. I've really started from the bottom. I'm here. So I started as a campus coordinator 5 years ago at UQAM, and progressively rose through the ranks to become a regional coordinator, a spokesperson, and national student coordinator. And as of April 1st of last year, the executive director. Now, I know I started my job on April 1st, so I kept updating my resume on the 2nd, but they still pay me, so I guess it wasn't a bad practical joke. And I left my mark on the organization by organizing the movement's very first large-scale event that we had. It was a Montreal Action Forum. That was back in May 2015. I'm getting old, so my memory is not as good as it was. Anyway, May 2015, we had 120 people come out to the event. That was my second event ever organized. And I had a very, very good team with me, and it was a great team effort. We got 120 people out, and it was in a region where our parent organization, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, was not present at the moment. It was all the work of student volunteers. So that's how I got started with movement, and it was so successful that right now I'm organizing the 7th and 8th Action Forum in Calgary and Montreal in March and May of this year. So it's a program that we're continuing. And of course, as you might have guessed, since I'm speaking on Spark Session, I do identify as a libertarian, but if I was a socialist, I think I'd be on the wrong platform. So what is Generation Screwed, that movement I was telling you about? Well, we're a network of young Canadian activists that are fighting for their financial futures. So there's 3 components to what we fight for. It's balanced budgets, debt repayment, and responsible spending. to which pretty much anyone would say duh, but so far I have yet to see a government that actually understands these basic principles, such as don't spend more than the money you bring in every year. And we do that through our network of campus clubs that are on 29 campuses across 9 Canadian provinces. I say 9, I know there's 10 provinces in Canada. We're trying to find someone who likes freedom in New Brunswick, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of them. But we're trying hard. We have 29 campuses. That makes us the largest free market movement in Canada. So enough shameless self-promotion. Let's drive right into it. So how to drive youth engagement in freedom causes? Well, I divided my presentation into 3 subcategories, 3 things that work well. There's the classics, there's the basics, and there's outreach. Now I have to apologize to anyone that wants to have something revolutionary taught to them. There's nothing revolutionary. Those are all things that we do in all of our campaigns, but that we do poorly when it comes to youth. And I don't know why. I always find it amazing that we have all these great engagement for 40 to 50-year-olds. And then when it comes to youth, it's like, well, we forget about it. So what are the classics? Well, have a strong social media presence. Now I have all of this beautiful data and statistics and that beautiful orange square that you can see on the screen. But I probably don't even have to use it. It's just there so you can look at it. But we all know that young people are on social media. Or if you don't, I'm not sure how you made it on a computer today. So yes, young people are on social media. They use social media. So if you want to reach out to people, if you want to reach out to an audience, make sure that you're there where your audience is. So be on social media and be active. But don't be on social media for the sake of being on social media. I've seen so many groups try to say, oh, well, there's this new social media that seems to be cool and hip, so let's try to use that. Not every social media is good for your message and branding. And not all content is made for all social media. If I can make an analogy, let's say you wrote a very, very good op-ed on a topic of your choice. I don't know, the NAFTA renegotiations. That's the thing that's happening right now. So you wrote that really good op-ed on NAFTA renegotiations, and you think, I really want to get that op-ed out. So who do you send it to? Well, you won't send it to a TV station for sure. So why is it that there's some people that still send content that's good for Twitter on Facebook? Recognize that not every social media has the same content, and recognize that not all of them reach the same goals in the same way, and that not all of them engage people in the same way. So when you create content, when you invest your time and your money to create content, think about it like this. And don't join the social media just because it's popular. Join it because your content and message is adapted to the platform. A very good example of this would be Pinterest. Pinterest is popular among certain demographics, but Pinterest doesn't work for politics. Unless you're trying to promote some arts and craft-based politics, Pinterest will not work for you. And yes, you might reach a couple of people on Pinterest, but as I'm guessing we all know, there's such a thing as unlimited needs and limited resources. Your unlimited needs are reaching out to new people, getting more supporters. Your limited resources is your time and money that you have to spend. So if you have just, 10 hours a week or 40 hours a week or even 1 hour a week on social media, use it where it is the most effective and where you'll be able to reach the most people that might agree with your message. Now there's this other thing, and it's something I find troubling. It's something a lot of think too poorly, sadly, and it's going from the interwebs to the internet. So on the left, I have here the interwebs. You have a beautiful post from a company named Slow Cow. They have this kind of gimmick where they have 8,000 photos of Facebook, and they have this kind of marketing gimmick that they did, saying that they're the opposite of Red Bull. What they mean by that is that they make a soothing drink, so that's supposed to be relaxing. But if I look at their social media, I would also say they probably took their gimmick a little bit too far, because even on social media, they're the opposite of Red Bull. They have 1 like on this post. There's 8,000 people following them and only 1 like on this post. And you might say, look, that might be an outlier, but I looked in 3 months of their post, and you're right, it is an outlier. This post has likes. Most of them have no like. I think the most likes I saw on one of their posts is 5. That is bad engagement. And why? Well, look at it. It's bland, it's unrelatable, there's nothing happening, and you can't even tell what's the objective. If you do not know what Slow Cow is already, you could not tell that they're trying to sell you that green can over there that you can see. So that post doesn't work. It's a kind of thing that looks like it was from a stock photo. promote, and that would probably be good if it was an article to promote local coffee shops. That makes me think of a local coffee shop, but it doesn't make me want to take their can and buy it or even drink it. Even if I'm thirsty, I probably won't go for that, even if I see that. And when we're bombarded with so much content on Facebook and other social media, there's no one that will stop to look at this and say, hey, you know what? That might be a good thing. And now, on the right side, I have a very randomly chosen organization who I think does a very, very good social media game. Of course, very randomly chosen, and that's Generation Screwed. You look at this content and you already know what it's about. In both cases, there's not a lot of text because people do not read long texts on Facebook. Actually, most people want very, very short text, even with newspaper articles these days. But what you have is we have double the followers of what Slowcow has. So they have 8,000, we have 16,000. And yet look at the level of engagement here. There's nearly 1,000 likes, 270 shares, and the comments do not show up on there, but there's over 100 comments in there. And that is good engagement. And why? Well, it's funny, it's relatable. You want to know what's happening, you can tell what's the objective. Or at least most Canadians will be able to do so. If you're not familiar with the modest deficit at the end here, that was a campaign promise by our current Prime Minister to run only 3 small, very, very small $10 billion deficits for 3 years and then balance the budget. That campaign promise ended up being, after he got elected, that ended up being $30 billion deficits every year with no plan to bring the budget back to balance. So you have these 3 things that are a trap, and then you have modest deficits that seem like a trap. People get it, and they'll share it. It's funny, there's an angle here. Whereas the other one is a stock photo. No one likes stock photos. So a couple of tips to engage youth on social media. Well, first of all, post regularly. It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be every hour. As long as you have as you have posts on a regular basis. You can post once a week. You can post once a day. With Generation Screw, we post Monday to Friday, minimum once a day, sometimes twice if there's something big happening. And the social media algorithms are going to reward you for such a thing. They'll put your page much higher in in other people's news feeds. The other thing is, don't be afraid to post memes. Look, yes, memes are be a bit edgy actually, and yes, edgy might get a couple of people pissed and frustrated, but those are not the guys you're trying to get. And trust me, you'll get about 1 person who's pissed for every 100 person that will like your page from this. So it's a good investment. It's a good trade-off. In your goal, look, if you have 40% of your country following your page, maybe you have to be a bit more careful. But I don't think any of our organizations are at that point just yet. So try to cater to your audience, because edgy gets engagement, and edgy gets youth, and edgy gets more likes. Other thing is, videos are great, but no one wants to listen to your 95-minute rants about why government deficits are bad, or actually your 95 minutes expose about why government deficits are bad. And trust me, I've tried it. It does not work. No one wants that. Videos are great if they're short, if they're engaging, and also, and this is a key part here, if they have subtitles. Most, especially young people, but most people look at their social media feeds when they're on their phones, when they're on the move. They don't spend hours in front of their computer looking at social media. So if you have subtitles, it means that you can still be listening to their music and still hear the message you want to say. If you don't have them, they'll just skip to look at something else. So have subtitles. So now let's move to the basics. This is a pet peeve of mine that I really wanted to tackle for this presentation. I hinted at it a little bit before with what Nicole was saying, but I've seen so many campaigns that have all of these greatly defined sub-demographics for boomers and basically for an older crowd. So they're going to say, I don't know, we want to target 35 to 50-year-olds, accomplished male professionals that are making between 60 and 100,000 a year, or we want to reach out to stay-at-home moms that have about 3 kids that are relatively socially conservative in their values. And when comes the time to find all of these greatly defined subdemographics for older generations, and then they say, oh yeah, and we want to have youth, or we want to have millennials. Well, look, do these 2 guys look the same to you? They sure do not look the same to me. They probably have very different policy priorities. The guy on the left might be swayed by legalizing marijuana, whereas the guy on the right might be swayed by balanced budgets. I can tell you the guy on the right is swayed by a balanced budget because he's a Facebook friend of mine, and I asked him for permission to use his picture. He was possibly on listening to this webinar right now. If he is, hey Jeremy. So you see, there's these two different people. They look completely different. But why are so many campaigns trying to target them the exact same way? It doesn't work. Just like it won't work if you try to target every single adult the exact same way. So when you do your strategy to reach out to young people or millennials, well, do just like you do with other categories. I put baby boomers here as a very good example. It's divide them. Try to find subdemographics. Are you trying to reach out to people that want to work in trades? Are you trying to reach out to people that study STEMs? Or do you want to reach out to people that basically stopped after high school, to people that have higher education? So divide them to subgroups. Then define which subgroup is most likely to support you, and basically which one it is the cheapest to get. Sure, if you had an unlimited amount of time and money to spend, you could probably get everyone to agree with your cause. But we still haven't found that unlimited amount of money to spend, and time is also a very, very important factor. So try to go for the ones that are the cheapest to get from a spending perspective or time perspective. And when you advertise or when you create content, take this into account. I know I'm talking a lot about money here, but I'm talking about, but the other thing is time as well. You have this saying in business that time is money, and I strongly believe it's true because both are limited resources and both can be invested. But of course, there's a couple of issues that resonate with youth and try to identify those issues that resonate with your target youth demographics. And try to make them your own. Try to possess them, even appropriate them if you need to do so. And the beauty of it is student unions across the country and across the world have done the job for us. They've identified a couple of some issues that work really well with their crowd, and I've put a few of them here: income inequality, student loans, housing affordability, minority rights and equality. And all of those you can try to take them and link them to your cause in a way or another. So say you want to talk about income inequality. Well, some of the richest zip codes in the US, and that is a fact, are in the District of Columbia. So that's can be a very good angle to try and tackle government as one of the factors driving income inequality. Or you can attack corporate welfare and crony capitalism as one of the cases where government is basically actively growing income inequality. Or when it comes to student loans, you can link them to government debt. Say, look, you owe this many $1,000s in student loans. Well, add on top of that amount of money that the federal government borrowed and that you probably will never see the light of day. How does that make you feel? I can tell you a lot of students hate it when you put it this way. But well, they hate the government for it, not your cause. Or housing affordability. That's an especially big issue in large urban centers. Young people are not sure exactly when they're going to be able to afford a home, or if they ever will be able to afford a home, and the cost of their rent is rising. So, if housing affordability is a big problem for them. Well, talk about all the red tape and government regulations that are strengthening development. Talk about the greenbelt policies that are trying to restrict development to very specific areas. So you have less housing available. Or talk about all those height limits that are put by city councilors in certain buildings. Those are all things that affect the supply of housing and affect the price of housing. Or minority rights and equality. Well, actually talk about minority rights and equality. There's a very, very strong liberty case to be made by it. I know I put occupational licensing in there, but basically the government has historically oppressed minorities. So why is it that the historical oppressor is suddenly the solution to righting all of those wrongs? It doesn't make sense. So try and take those issues and possess them, and so at least we can start winning on those points. And now the last one is Outrage. Now this one has a fair bit of shameless promotion. I just have to give that disclaimer. But the beauty of it is there's a group that already did the job for you. So make your movement available to them. So let's say you're traveling somewhere. Let's say you're going to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I'll just name it randomly. And Well, when you go there, look on Google Map. There's a campus. There's Middle Tennessee State University. I learned that while I was there. So try to stay an extra day there and see if you can do a speech on the local campus, if you can organize an event on the local campus. And you don't need to have a lot of connections on the local campus to do it. If 10-minute Google search and Facebook search will get you to find some groups that are ideologically linked to your cause that you can reach out to and say, look, I'm in town, I want to do a speaking event. I put here college Democrats or Republicans, depending if you're more on the fighting for the social side or the fiscal side of things, or Students for Liberty and Generation Screwed if you're in Canada are very good groups to do this. The beauty of it is they're made up of young people. They already have a network on campus because, well, they're young people on that campus. So they see their classmates every day and they can promote the event to those classmates. They can also advertise on campus. They can put posters up, whereas outside organizations rarely can do that. And all of those groups, well, since they're students, they have a limited amount of time they can spend on organizing events. So they're looking for speakers, they're looking to do events, and you basically come and say, look, I have this ready-made event for you for that date. Are you interested? I can tell you if their group is active, 95% of the time they'll say, yeah, sure, come on. And they'll promote the event, they'll promote it with their circle. A couple of ways you can add on top of that to try and make it even better is, let's say you have a speaking engagement, follow it by a pub night. I have very, very rarely seen college students turn down beer on someone else's tab. That's a very, very popular thing. So when you have a speaking event, advertise saying you're paying the first round, and even when you finish the event, say, look, we had a great discussion. I'd love to continue it. So if anyone wants to come to the local campus bar and chat a bit more about this issue we're talking about, I'm paying first round. First round's on me. Come on. You'll get most of the people to follow you to the bar, and you'll get to meet them a bit more personally and develop a relationship with them as well. When you develop those kinds of relationships, it means they'll invite you to more events. It means they'll do more stuff that is linked to your cause as well. The other one is, well, if it's around lunchtime or you're speaking to a more Puritan crowd, offer free food. And it doesn't have to be very expensive food. It doesn't have to be fancy at all. Buy a couple of pizzas. It's very inexpensive, but it'll still draw students. It means they have one meal less that they have to pay for. So they'll be more than happy to come, and they'll come for the free food, they'll stay for the free speech. So yeah, the third one, I put organize a Liberty themed trivia night here. I should have changed it for innovate in your events. Speaking engagements are great, but speaking engagements are not everything. And speaking engagements do not reach out to everyone. But organize something different, and you're going to reach out to another demographic. You'll get more people to come. You'll also get the people that come to speaking events to come most likely, because, well, it's something they've never seen before, and it might be a little bit more fun for them. And the fourth one, and this is when you are organizing large-scale events. Of course, you probably already have this, regular ticket and student ticket. But add this option for donate tickets to students. We do this for every single event we do, and there's a lot of attendees, whether they come to the event or they can't come, but that decide to give a couple of tickets to students. So they pay for those tickets, and for every ticket donated, reach out to a couple of student groups in the area and say, hey, look, we had a generous donor give, I don't know, 5 free tickets. If you're interested in coming to this event, it'd be worth this much per ticket. We have it for free. You can come, you can mingle with people, hear the speeches. Are you interested? Well, if they're free that evening, most of the time they won't be interested. So yeah, so that was what I had. If there's a couple of takeaways you can take from this presentation is, first of all, be on social media, but do it intelligently. Choose how you spend your time wisely. Second of all, make engaging content. No one likes stock photos, so let's try to stop using stock photos without modifying them or making them funny in some kind of way. Third thing is, don't advertise to youth. Advertise to sub-demographics from youth, because that is what works. It's the same thing that any advertiser will tell you as well. They don't advertise to all adults. They advertise to specific subsets that they think are likely to buy their products, because that way they get more bang for their buck. Well, it's the same thing with youth. 4, link their major issues to your cause. try to make it so that you can have something from their life experience and say, look, here is how it could be made better with more freedom in that specific case. And the fifth one is, well, reach out to the people that already have those network on campus, and they'll be more than happy to do it. So I'll be happy to take questions. And of course, if you want to connect, or if you're ever in Canada and looking to do events, or if you're ever interested in bringing me to events, of course, let me know. I've got all of this beautiful contact information here, so I can easily be contacted.
Wait a minute. So like if I'm going to be in Canada, I can call you and say I'm available to speak, and you might find me somewhere to go?
Yeah, sure.
Hey guys, just in case any of you are going to Canada, I'm just saying. Okay, well, thank you, Renaud. I have a bunch of really good questions that have come in on the Q&A tab. Nothing from my Facebook feed. I can't see the Spark Freedom wall. So Tim, if you see anything on the Spark Freedom wall, if you could drop it in the Q&A button, that would be awesome. Tim is our guy who's making sure the ships are running on this. The first question, so one of the things you said that resonates with me, because almost every time we go in to work with a client on developing their marketing and communications plan, we start with who, like we go through the strategic discussion and we say, who are you targeting? And they basically give me their version of everybody. And it could be everybody in a state. It can be everybody in an age bracket. It can be everybody who is Republican or Democrat, but it's usually this huge pool. So I like how you broke down very clearly, you can't just target all millennials, because millennials are in fact different from one another. And probably more different from one another than we even know yet. So that's something we like beat over people's heads. And then it's really frustrating, because when you're motivated by a mission of liberty, you're like, everybody should get it. It's really simple. Why don't you get it? I want to get so I like that, but you got to start with that low hanging fruit or you get nowhere, right?
Exactly. So, and that's the same thing we do. When I target people, I start with the easiest people to get and target, the ones that already agree with my message but have not heard about me. Those are the first ones I want to get. Then I want to get the people that agree with 95% of my message, and then 90%. And you work your way up to the people that don't agree with you at all, if you can get there. Yeah.
So the first question I have is, do you find that the message of a generation being screwed resonates with your audience? And why would something so negative get so much interest?
It does. And there's a lot of people that ask why we have this name. Well, the truth is it works well on campus. People find it funny. People find it different, but it's how they feel. They feel that our generation has been screwed by previous generations of politicians. So we're basically saying, hey, there's this group that is exactly named how you feel. Why don't you join it? And they join it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and folks, remember, if you're on Zoom, put your question in the Q&A area, and if you're on Facebook, you can just write it in the comments. So this next one's about seeking speaking engagements. What do you think about seeking speaking engagements with organizations you know to be exactly opposite of what you think? So opposed to your views, turning the message or seeking a debate opportunity. So rather than reaching out to the Campus Students for Liberty group, you're reaching out to progressives for a progressive future.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Actually, just a side point. After that question, I'll stop the screen share so I can just go back to actually seeing how I'm speaking. But yeah, that's an excellent question, and I would say that's always a worthwhile endeavor as well. Of course, those are not the low-hanging fruit, but debates like these can always be fun. You can always sway a couple of people's opinion with us. What I would recommend, though, is if you want to do this thing, reach out to two groups, one like-minded and one that hates you. Reach out to these two groups, say, look, I'd love to do a common event, a debate on this thing. I'm available to debate. Let's try and get another speaker that agrees with that other group, as I like to call it, the wrong group. That the group that's wrong. Let's try to find someone that agrees with their point of view and have this debate. So that way, at least your audience is not necessarily one-sided, and there's still people in your audience that are going to be fairly receptive to your message. Basically, if you have someone that strongly believes in whatever Nancy MacLean wrote about libertarians and public choice theory, you probably will never sway them. or it'll take you a lot of time and money to do so. So if at least you can have in your audience half of it that are people that can be swayed to your cause, or at least that are close enough ideologically to your cause, that'll go a long way in saying you're better investing your time. But I know it's always fun to go to a place where people hate what you have to say, but you can still crush them.
Yeah, well, and sometimes I will purposefully put myself on a non-friendly forum, knowing that there are people in the audience who will be friendly to my view if I just don't sound like a jerk. And you won't confuse, you will never convince the people who are 100% opposed to you and religiously locked in on their beliefs. It's the same with our side. People religiously locked in on our beliefs will not change. It's very hard to change them. But there are a lot of people in the middle listening, and if you can answer questions that don't convince the person you're talking to, but sound reasonable, it's like a little hook. Maybe I'll examine that later. It's not comfortable in this room to admit it, but maybe I'll examine it later. So it can be a fun tactic.
Definitely. What I'd say is, look, if you want to reach out to college Democrats, for instance, and do an event like this, sure, because there's a couple of them that are going to be in the center. But if you want to reach out to, I don't know, communists for a totalitarian state, well, I'm pretty sure that group will not be receptive at all to your message.
Yeah, I had a good time with a Marxist once in a bar. Okay, I have one from Facebook that's a little out of left field. This person has a t-shirt company, and they're wondering, like, if you have a t-shirt company, how should I target youth or younger people, and how do I segment that audience? I'm reading into the question a little bit by asking the segmentation question.
Yeah, I'd say look at what your t-shirts look like, and what kind of audience will they reach out to. Is it something that hipsters will like? Is it something where you'll have like a funny thing on them? And kind of the same thing. Try to see what kind of crowd likes this. Try to see, like, let's say you have good sports t-shirts. Try to reach out to jocks, to people that are very athletic. Or if you have a very hipster looking t-shirt, like something you could sell at Coachella, well, try to reach out the hipster crowd. So it's all about finding out what your product is. In my case, my product is ideas. So what your product is and how you can or you can make it more popular. Which one is the low-hanging fruit?
Yeah, I find having humor built in really helps to any message. So what I do coffee. Yeah. I did a whole series of unpaid advertising around Christmas with Hollow Roast and right then the movie, a Star Wars movie came out. So we did a whole bunch of Star Wars puns and we got a lot of engagement. I got some sales on that. I didn't get a ton because it was, my conversion rates were kind of low, but I found that people really enjoyed that humor hook. So, and I think with some of our viewers, the humor is more important, or the younger people, humor seems to be more important than it used to be. Although I think humor's always worked.
Oh yeah, you're totally right. Actually, I'll share my screen for one more second because this is our best working lit ever. The thing that's basically when we table with them, we have people left, right, and center taking them, and it has humor built into it. We're basically saying, yeah, politicians are excessively wasteful. They're basically shoveling money into a fire. But this works. People like this. So yes, there's a couple of things that'll reach out to everyone because everyone, it's not a secret. Pretty much everyone except parts and hacks hate politicians. And even parts and hacks hate politicians on the other side. But there are very, very few things that work with everyone. That's
true. And I even appreciate a good funny meme that targets my opinion. If somebody gets one in, I'm like, yeah, that was good. I got to share it. That's super funny. Okay, so I got another question here. When you say videos must be short, how short? 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes?
I'd say that depends on your organization. Some organizations do. I would divide it into categories. Let's say you're a think tank. Your goal is to explain stuff to people and explain a complex issue. Go for a 5-minute video, maybe even 10, because you'd still need to have enough time to explain, and your audience is probably an audience looking for a bit more information. if you're an advocacy group like we are, 1 minute, 2 minute tops is the best thing. Because your goal is not to explain the issue so much as to say, this is the issue, this is why you should be outraged, or this is the issue, this is why you should be thankful, send some thank you letters. So it's all about what you're trying to do with the video.
Makes sense. And that subtitle advice is very important, because that's been going on for a while. And I mean, I watch videos on my computer with the sound off all the time because I find the sound to usually to be annoying and loud. And yeah, I love music, so who knew? Okay, so another question we've got here: how are you establishing Generation Screwed's identity throughout Canada, and what seems to attract your members the best?
So, well, what we're doing at the moment is we're reaching out to other like-minded students. Well, at least that's how we started. Reaching out to other like-minded groups and getting a couple of events done on campus with them. Then we identified a couple of people that we think could be great campus leaders, campus coordinators, and we recruited them like this. And this has been our model ever since, because we're not really competing for students. If one student joins one Liberty group, he can be part of as many Liberty groups as he wants. We're not competing for them. It's one of those things where it actually helps all of our groups if we have more groups, similar groups on campus. So that's how we start out. That's how we are expanding the identity, and at the same time, our Facebook has been very, very important for this, with 16,000 followers, and it's still growing every day. So that's always a good thing. Now I don't want to make a politician of myself, but I forgot the second part of the question. If you could please repeat it.
Well, hold on. I marked it as answered. So
sorry.
Cruza says, how are you establishing Generation Screwed's identity throughout Canada, and what seems to attract members the best? Second part.
I'd say what seems to attract members, for us, it's pub nights. Because I want to differentiate between members and Facebook followers. So members would be pub nights. As I said, students love beer. So if you're paying the first round, they'll come and they'll be more interested in being engaged. What you also want to do is, if you have a campus organization, you want to make it so that the people that run it or the people that are supporting it on campus become a close circle of friends. If they do, they'll be more active, they'll do more events, they'll be more engaged. As having a social setting just helps for that. So that would be on campus side. On Facebook, I'd say it's practically a mix of funny memes and sharing outrageous examples of government waste. Like just recently, I know it's been up with governments in Canada and stairs recently. You know that that thing about libertarians who would build the roads? I feel like in Canada right now, it's who would build the wasteful stairs. We had, in the space of a year, there's 3 different governments that had 3 scandals with stairs. The first one is in New Westminster in British Columbia, where they built a staircase that went nowhere. Because they had to build, one building was torn down, they had to build a new fire exit for a building, and decided to put the fire exit on the sidewalk and not at the back of the building, which was really ugly. And for a while, those stairs were not linked to anything because they didn't get the building owner's permission. So it took them about a year to get that fixed. Now the stairs to nowhere go somewhere. But so that was the first one. The second one was, well, actually, I'll go back to the second one because the second one was the funniest. But the third one is recently the legislature in Nova Scotia got its front stairs replaced. It's 7 granite slabs that make these stairs. Like it's not a big thing, but it cost them $130,000 to rebuild this, or about $18,000 per step. Is the cost of a small car to replace a step, which is, in my opinion, completely appalling. And we're not talking about large stairs. We're talking about like a regular sized staircase. So that was the third one. But the second one was the best one. It's the city of Toronto. Well, there's this guy that lives in front of a park in the city of Toronto. And there's a relatively steep hill to go down to a community garden that's at the bottom of that hill. And the residents of the community have asked the city, please build a stair here, because I mean we've got a couple of people that got injured by falling by going down that steep hill. So it would just be useful if there were stairs here, because if not, we have to go like 150 meters away or something. And the city said, well, we can't really do that because it's going to cost $150,000 to build a staircase here. Well, that guy in Toronto said, okay, well, the city can do it, and they have this ludicrous amount of money. Well, he went to Home Depot, got a little bit of plywood, asked someone for help, got him $550, and he built the staircase himself. Then the city destroyed it, and the bureaucracy was mad because they were saying, no, this is not up to code, and it needs to be better. And you know what? The city asked for another quote, and now the stairs were built for $10,000 instead of $150,000. So sharing that kind of example of government ways or government inefficiency gets people outraged, it gets people's attentions. There's a slight funny side to it as well, because I mean, what is so complicated that stairs can't be built by the government, but somehow they should be taking care of education and healthcare. So when you have this kind of angle, it's something that works as well.
Yeah, and I've seen that $10,000 staircase. It's still overpriced. It is still.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Yeah, but I mean, look, it's $10,000 instead of $150,000.
Yeah,
sure, the private sector option was $550 from Home Depot, but at least now it's better.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it looks like we're out of questions. So thank you so much for giving us your time, Renaud. And I will have this up on the blog in about a week. And I look forward to next time I see you in person. We'll have a coffee, a good coffee.
As do I, and thank you for having me.
Take care.